It's called a PlayStation 5, not a PlayStation 5, so spend less and play more. We've done all the research for the best deals on the ongoing Player's Choice sale, so you can stock up on fantastic games at all-time low prices, including a dozen games for $10 or less each. Just remember, the following discounts close before the end of day October 22nd, so don't you dawdle. Less console wars, more Gears of War. Reloaded, that is. This remake is the first time the long-running Xbox exclusive franchise has appeared on the PlayStation. And already we've got a snug 25% discount down to $30. So if it's a nostalgia trip or new to you, now's the best time to cut in. And speaking of early HD nostalgia, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion Remastered allows players to experience a time and place before Skyrim was available on anything and everything. That's a cool 20% off down to $40 for a game that takes over 90 hours for completionists. A fresh remaster on a Bethesda classic. After years of development and post-launch content, not to mention the plethora of game-changing feature updates, Cyberpunk 2077 is a must-look for any PlayStation 5 owner. For $42.59, you get the main game and the Celebrate DLC Phantom Liberty. Great gameplay, great story, great graphics, great deal. Feeling up for a samurai game but not interested in spending too much? Well, Like a Dragon Ishin is the Yakuza franchise but in a completely different time period. For only $14 you're getting dozens upon dozens of hours of off-the-wall beat-em-up gameplay and a boatload of side stories. Yeah, it's been on sale before, but this is the lowest price yet. Deathloop is a AAA first-person shooter roguelike from the makers of Dishonored. Not to sound like a standard pull quote, but this is a true high-octane action game with expressive and varied gameplay. And now it's back to a fraction of its price at only $12. If you missed this one when it was released, it's time to loop back. Halloween is just around the corner, and that means it's time for a body horror action game like Resident Evil 4 Gold Edition, a fantastic mix of technical gameplay and dramatic presentation. But now you're getting extra DLC including Separate Ways, which usually retails on its own for $10. Get it all and more for $30. And speaking of jump scares and body horror, the Dead Space remake has dropped like a severed limb down to its all-time low of $14. This is some of the most gruesome gore of this generation, peppered with ranting existential terror, so if you want to crank up the mutilations to revolting proportions, Dead Space is a must-look. One of the very best exclusives the PlayStation 5 has to offer, Returnal is now back to its lowest price ever at $29.39. That's more than half off for one of the best examples of what the DualSense controller has to offer. A great roguelike, but also a tour de force and haptic feedback. Or a tour de force feedback, as it were. There's no denying that Spider-Man 2 took everything from the first game to the next level, but for some players the first game's story still remains superior due to its original take on an older Peter Parker taking on his famous rogues gallery. And for only $25 you can do everything a Spider can with ray tracing and instant load times. Alright, High on Life has a little bit of external baggage, that's for sure, but as a game I have to admit I was impressed on how sophisticated the game's storytelling and gameplay was. Think of Metroid Prime but with squishy farts and lots of screaming. There's really nothing else like it, and right now it's only $20. UFC 5 has recently dropped to its lowest price ever, but just a heads up, this one's online play is still considered subpar even a couple of years after launch. But if you're focusing on local play and single player, the $17.49 price tag is a great discount for digital pugilists, and a heck of a lot cheaper than a front row ticket to the Octagon. Releasing earlier this year, Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon is sure to bring back images of Skyrim and Morrowind, but Tainted Grail is not beholden to one influence, giving players an original experience that has been steadily improved with new updates. Now it's down to its lowest price yet at $36. There's remakes, and then there's the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Rebuilt from the ground up, this version is so extravagant it's only the first of a multi-part blockbuster remake. But for only $15.19 you can experience one of the most celebrated stories in video game history and some of the sharpest pixels available on the PlayStation 5. The Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is an absurdly good deal for retro players. We're talking hundreds of hours of Battle Network's unique action RPG gameplay, colorful cyberpunk, and bumping music, all for less than $20. This deal includes both volumes at the best price we've ever seen at 67% off. Some called it the very best RPG of 2024, but you can call Metaphor Refantasio yours at the lowest price on record at $38.49. If this is giving you flashbacks to the ever-popular Persona 5, that's because this is from Atlas Games. But as a standalone game, it takes plenty of well-executed creative risks. If you're done wringing out every bit of content from Elden Ring, might I recommend the Lies of P Overture Bundle. You're getting an absolutely bonkers Souls-like based on the classic story of Pinocchio, but this $58.49 deal is the lowest price ever and includes the robust DLC as well, which some claim is even better than the main game. No lie. Blueprints is being hailed as one of the best puzzle games of 2025, and now you can get a generous 20% discount down to the lowest price yet of $24. This one is going to require a lot more gray matter and pattern recognition than Twitch reflexes, so if you want to test your deduction skills, snag this deal. Farming Simulator 25 usually sticks to full price, but recently returned to its lowest PSN price ever at $48. Now, to be clear, this is the latest and main focus of the Farming Simulator franchise and will be for the foreseeable future. Winter is coming soon, so why not spend the next few months inside where it's always harvest time? Alright fellow cheapskates, if you're looking for the lowest of the lows, everything until the end of this video is $10 or less. Marvel's Midnight Suns gets overlooked a lot, and that's probably because the name is pretty nondescript, but all you need to know is this is XCOM meets Marvel Comics. We're talking a turn-based strategy game that embraces the nuance of these classic characters and their canonical powers and weaknesses, all for $9. The Mass Effect Legendary Edition is now down to a meager $6, which means you're essentially paying $2 per game. But that's not really accurate, because this game also includes all of the DLC in one convenient collection, including a robust enhancement to the original game, a whole trilogy of choices and their consequences. Much like Cyberpunk 2077, it took a long time for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt to get just right for consoles. Well, this complete edition includes the PlayStation 5 Next Gen upgrade as well as the entire story, and we mean the whole story, nearly 200 hours of world-class interactive narrative for $10. If you're looking for classic video game overkill, look no further than Maneater. For only $8, you get to take control of a revenge-fueled shark and their adventure to eat almost everything and everyone in the nearby area. This is one great after-work game, so turn off your brain, turn on your PlayStation 5, and cause some trouble. Despite trying everything to move on, the Arkham games Asylum City and Night remain the absolute best games ever set in the Batman universe, bar none. But why pick from the trilogy when you can have it all for $6? Which, yes, is a fairly common sale price, but if you haven't bitten the bat yet, what are you waiting for? And speaking of classics, BioShock the Collection sends players to the celebrated world from game director Ken Levine, but also contains the often overlooked BioShock 2 and even its groundbreaking DLC. These are some of the most influential games of their era, all for the rock-bottom price of $10. Time machines are expensive and don't exist, but for only $6 you can step back into Prohibition-era America in Mafia Definitive Edition. This is a well-realized remake of the classic PlayStation 2 game Mafia, now with advanced graphics and set pieces as well as several story changes to keep familiar players on their toes. God of War is back to its lowest price ever at $10. This game shows protagonist Kratos, now a father, attempting to escape his past while caught in a strange land with its own mythology and gods. If you're a PlayStation owner and you've somehow missed God of War so far, you skipped a watershed moment in game direction. It's time to fix that. Admittedly, the Metro Saga bundle doesn't sound very fun on paper. You're being thrown into a post-apocalyptic society where scarcity has driven good people to do terrible things. But this is all in the tradition of cathartic Eastern European literature, but with a lot more bullets. We're talking 2033 Last Light and Exodus Gold Edition for $9. How many times have you seen that objection meme only to wonder where it came from? Well, the answer is the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy, part anime, part courtroom drama, all adventure game. Or games as it were, all for less than $10, which is a heck of a lot cheaper than law school. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning is one heck of a great hidden gem. Imagine an action RPG game that really embraces the button mashing of beat-em-up gameplay. This game cost a pretty penny to make back in the day, but today you can enjoy the fruits of Kurt Schilling's venture into development for only $8. If you've never played a Borderlands game before, but you're curious about Part 4, why spend all that money when Borderlands 3 is down to $6 and already has years of performance patches? That's dozens upon dozens of hours of gameplay and a bazillion guns for less than the price of a real-life rocket launcher. Trust us, we checked. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. How about chatting back which games you picked up and which ones you would recommend? Keep clicking around here at Game Rant, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks everybody!